another blow to the bossy lady. The Constitutional Court has dismissed suspended Public Protector Busisiwe Mkhwebane's bid for it to rescind a previous ruling against her. It's what has led to the Section 194 parliamentary process into her fitness to hold office. In it, MPs have been told by current and former employees of her alleged overhandedness and cruelty when dealing with staffers. The Apex Court has ordered she pay the costs of litigation from her own pocket and called her application an abuse of process of court. To explain why all of this matters, we've been keeping an eye on it since it started, but it does have an impact, and it will have an impact long after Busisiwe Mkhwebane is no longer at the helm of the Public Protector's office. Lawson Naidu joins us now as the Executive Secretary at the Council for the Advancement of the South African Constitution. Always great to have you on the show. Thank you for your time this morning. Perhaps, Lawson, let's work our way backwards, starting with yesterday's dismissal. The highest court in the land saying Mkhwebane is abusing the court. What's wrong with a rescission of rescission?
Well, good morning. We must go back to the initial judgment of the Constitutional Court, which dismissed Advocate Mkhwebane's appeal against the rules that would be used in the parliamentary impeachment process. She was successful on two grounds, including the fact that she had a right to legal representation during the impeachment hearing. But she went ahead and challenged that. The Constitutional Court dismissed her challenge. And this is now the second attempted rescission application in respect of that substantive judgment. And it really just proves once again that Busisiwe Mkhwebane is unfit to hold office. She has a tenuous grasp of the law, and to suggest otherwise, the court has used terse language to say it is an abuse of court proceedings. And indeed it is, because it is wasting the time of the Constitutional Court to hear matters that have no prospects of success.
But she would argue that she now had new information that Ismail Abramdri text saying he had it on good authority, how the first decision would go, basically implying that it was tainted.
Well, the Constitutional Court itself ordered an investigation into the Abramdri text message and took the necessary steps. It's not within the domain of Busisiwe Mkhwebane to tell the Constitutional Court how to deal with a matter such as that. They have dealt with it. They have satisfied themselves that there was nothing untoward in terms of any influence over the judgment or even the timing of the release of that judgment. So this is, Busisiwe Mkhwebane merely clutching at straws, trying to protect herself. But as we see simultaneously in the parliamentary impeachment inquiry, her conduct is being exposed on a daily basis.
And even if there was something suspicious, the onus would have been on her to prove it. Conjecture is not enough. She now says the Constitutional Court decision yesterday was women abuse.
Well, if it weren't, such a serious matter, one would laugh at this. This is really her once again seeking to paint herself as a victim, using any means that she can clutch on to try and demonstrate that. But, it's quite clear that this has got nothing to do with women abuse. This is the fact that she has no understanding of the law and is seeking to abuse court processes for political purposes.
Right, let's now go back to that parliamentary process to see if she's fit to hold office. I mean, what do you make of the damning testimony against her, including, of course, that she allegedly hounded a sick man, the former chief investigator, Abongile Madida, who had had a stroke but still hauled him before a disciplinary hearing even when he could not speak? And the man died a month later. What do you make of that kind of thing?
Well, it really just goes to the very core of the issue that the impeachment process is seeking to determine whether Busisiwe Mkhwebane is indeed fit to hold office. And testimony such as that, together with the other testimony that has been heard over recent days and weeks, all goes to the fact that she's totally unfit to hold office as the head of a Chapter 9 institution, an important office in our constitutional democracy. that she lacks the understanding and the ability to carry out the duties of that office. But obviously, ultimately, it is the members of the committee will have to weigh all of the evidence before them. But from what we've been seeing and hearing, the evidence is stacking up against her very heavily.
She would argue that, of course, an iron fist was necessary to speed up delivery on matters that had long been delayed.
Well, putting effective procedures in place in order to enhance the efficiency of an office is one thing, but to conduct oneself in the manner in which she has done, without regard to the interests of the staff around her, to demean staff in front of her is not the way one runs an organization or an office. And so, yes, we want to see results from the office, but the kind of results that we've seen come out from the office where, again, going back to the legal process, a number of cases have been successfully challenged on review and proven to have been politically motivated by Busisiwe Mkhwebane.
How worrying are the red flags on the possible role of spooks in her reports?
Well, I think it should be very concerning. I think that's one of the issues that is probably most concerning, is the role of state security agencies within the Office of the Public Protector seeking to direct the functioning of that office. And as we've seen from the reports from the Zondo Commission, the role of the state security agencies has been directly political, serving factional interests rather than the national or public interest. And it's clear that strategy of the state security agencies was driven through the Office of the Public Protector, through Busisiwe Mkhwebane.
What about the conduct of her lawyer, Dali Mpofu? Firstly, let's talk about his refuting with contempt what Sphelo Samuel said, being at the site of that inspection at the Frieda dairy farm, only for a photograph to be shown that, in fact, he'd been there with Mkhwebane.
Well, again, I think Advocate Mpofu's antics in Parliament, I'm not undermine the integrity and respect for that institution, as he often does in other fora as well. And I think this is one thing where the members of Parliament, members of that committee, will not tolerate the antics of Advocate Mpofu. He's seeking to play to the public gallery and seeking to popularize the issues and deviate from the actual issues that is being confronted in the impeachment process, where I say the evidence is stacking up against his client very significantly, and he's seeking to deflect from that, but I think will ultimately be unsuccessful. But, it's also a matter, I think, which the Legal Practice Council needs to consider, that kind of behavior in a public forum.
Yeah, still telling people to shut up, but let's move on then. The shielding of Mosebenzi Zwane and Ace Mahashule allegedly, what did you make of evidence around that?
Well, to me, Bongani, it's no surprise, as CAFEC was one of the applicants in the Frieda Dairy Farm review case, and in fact, it was in that case that this was exposed, where in the original documentation that was placed before the court, certain information had been withheld by Busisiwe Mkhwebane and became revealed during that process. And she was unable to provide an adequate explanation to the court at that time as to why that information had been withheld, why the draft report had been fundamentally altered to exclude references to senior politicians, including Ismakashule and Mosebenzi Zwane. And as we know, Busisiwe Mkhwebane lost that case in the High Court, and throughout her appeal processes, that judgment stood. So this is something that has been there for a long time, but obviously needs to be brought to the attention of the committee to help them weigh the evidence and come to a decision.
The exodus of staff from her office means that the impact of her destruction will last long after she's gone.
Well, we've seen this, Bongani, and, again, if I go back to the State Capital Commission of Inquiry and their reports, and we look at how other institutions, SARS, the NPA, the Hawks, and other institutions of state were hollowed out by over the years. And we're seeing exactly the same thing has happened with the Office of the Public Protector under Busisiwe Mkhwebane. And that's really why she needs to be moved from office so that office can play the important role that it needs to play in terms of facilitating access to justice for ordinary South Africans.
The use of external investigators, staff told to shred reports, and of course demands to be called madam, all really leaving much to be desired. Lawson Naidoo, appreciate your time. That's KSAC's Executive Secretary on the line.
Current events, developing stories,
tough questions.
Your voice making a difference.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa.